Welcome back, scholars. So we are going to be talking about our body paragraphs, and we are going to start with body paragraph number 1, which is our reason number 1. So if we look at our controlling idea, or my controlling idea, it says, courage is important to leadership because as a leader, you must have the strength to stand up for what is right, function effectively in the face of fear, and have the ability to face opposition head on. So, my first reason here is a leader must have the strength to stand up for what is right. So I'm going to let that guide me in my topic sentence, and I'm going to say don't want it to be highlighted. So a leader must have the courage to stand up for what is right. So now I might think of, how this applies to leadership and why it's important. So I'm just going to say, as a leader, you have the ability to influence those around you. Now I might think of a leader that has stood up for what is right, that had to have the courage to stand up for what is right. And as I think about multiple different leaders that have had to stand up for what is right over time. But what comes to my mind is Martin Luther King. And I think about what exactly he did. He was a civil rights activist. He stood up in the face of injustice. Oh, that's good. So I might talk about, therefore, when you see an injustice taking place, you must have the courage to stand up in the face of that injustice. And then I've already kind of thought of my example of who I want to use, the leader that I want to use. So I'm going to say, for example, Martin Luther King Jr. saw an injustice taking place when he, along with the rest of his race, were being treated unequally and unfairly. So what did Martin Luther King do in the face of this justice? Well, Martin Luther King had the courage to fight for equality for African Americans. He peacefully protested using nonviolent direct action protest he faced going to jail, but continued to write courageous letters even from jail. That are still widely read today. I don't know if I like that. Maybe I should mention the actual letter that he wrote. So I'm going to erase this. And I'm going to say the letter that is still widely read today. This gives my paper more credibility because I know what I'm talking about. He faced going to jail but continued to write the letter from Birmingham jail that is still widely read today. That is a famous letter that he wrote, and whomever's reading my paper, they will understand that reference. So now I want to transition my reader into my next thought. I gave my example, so my entire paragraph thus far is about my first reason. So my first reason was, a leader must have the courage to stand up for what is right. As a leader, you have the ability to influence those around you. Therefore, when you see an injustice taking place, you must have the courage to stand up in the face of that injustice. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. saw an injustice taking place when he, along with the rest of his race, were being treated unequally and unfairly. Martin Luther King had the courage to fight for equality for African Americans. He peacefully protested using nonviolent direct action protest. He faced going to jail, but continued to write the letter from Birmingham jail that is still widely read today. Now, I want to be able to transition into my second reason. And so I need to find a way to do that. And I'm going to maybe look up some transition words. So, because maybe I don't know them right off the top of my head. So I'm going to say transition words. Let's look. Here's some anchor charts. I'm going to say transition words, paragraph, paragraph. Okay. So I'm seeing some different ones. Okay, so I'm going to look through some of these, and then I found my transition word. I am going to say, even though King was faced with the fear of jail, he continued to show courage as he faced injustice. So, why do I say this? Why did I write it like this? Because I know that my second reason is function effectively in the face of fear. So, in order to help transition my reader to know that the next thing I'm going to be speaking about is fear, I need to somehow mention fear. And so I did. I made a transition, even though King was faced with the fear of jail. He continued to show courage as he faced injustice. This helps me to transition my reader to know that I'm going to be possibly talking about fear next. It also sums up a little bit what I was talking about. So I end by talking about King and kind of concluding what I was going to say about Martin Luther King as my example, but I also help transition my reader to the next thought that I'm going to have. So I hope that this helped you in main body paragraph number 1. Stay tuned for main body paragraph number 2.